activity. Today, we now are seeing more than 120 and rising companies participating in the Bitcoin standard. We recently had MetaPlanet top El Salvador for the most amount of Bitcoin of a company to a country perspective. Stacks recently announced an exciting integration with SUI to further grow Bitcoin's dominance and multi-chain integration. And we've been able to participate and show excitement and the bigger message around unlocking Bitcoin capital all around the world, from Toronto to New York, throughout Asia to the Middle East, and so much more. Today, in this town hall, we're going to hear about everything furthering Bitcoin's dominance to the unlock of value throughout the Stacks ecosystem, to what's changed and evolved in the technical and DeFi roadmaps for Stacks, along with how Stacks is looking to gain traction throughout the entire ecosystem and the greater industry as well. But first, we're going to kick it off with the bigger bet on Bitcoin with the one and only Muneeb Ali. Muneeb, the floor is yours.
Hey everyone, Muneeb here. Really excited to be sharing some of the things over here. And I feel like when we were thinking about stacks and betting on Bitcoin in 2025, where my mind went was Bitcoin is such a large asset class, and it's something that's going to be around 100 plus years from now. And I think any leading Bitcoin L2, which right now it's Stacks, and we think it is going to be Stacks years and decades from now, in many ways we have a large responsibility, because our actions, our plans, our roadmaps are actually going to determine how billions of people around the world end up using Bitcoin, how Bitcoin DeFi grows. And I think we take that responsibility very seriously. So personally, I think when Nakamoto and SBTC launched, everyone here in the community knows how big of an event they were, how hard and how long people worked on it. But that was also a time to start reflecting what's next. What's the next big growth unlock for Stacks? Where do we go from here? What are the type of technologies that are really needed that we need to build, or other changes or evolutions in the ecosystem that we need to work on to be able to unlock that? So I think we're going to talk about some of that today. I'm going to cover some topics, and then I'm going to hand over to other leaders in the ecosystem who will come in and walk through it. First of all, I'm just going to give a little bit of a recap. I know a lot of community members might be familiar with the state of Stacks, but I think there are a lot of new people as well, and we want to make sure we bring them up to speed. So the first thing is, what's our core thesis? I think our core thesis is that Bitcoin is just different. It's a different asset class. It's here to stay, and it's actually separating itself from everything else. If you look at the Bitcoin to gold dominance, that graph looks insane. If you look at the Bitcoin hash rate, it's just going through the roof continuously. And I think the Bitcoin's use of energy is now actually becoming a really positive thing, and something that's actually pushing technology forward. We have seen more than $100 billion come into Bitcoin ETFs, but the chart that's the most interesting to me personally is actually the Bitcoin dominance chart. If you look at how Ethereum is sort of like nosediving in dominance and Bitcoin is going up, the key thing is that if you look at the middle line, where the rest of the projects, this is all the other L1s and L2s and so on, that's actually a much bigger category now compared to 5 years ago. There's so many new projects, like, new projects keep getting launched every quarter, every other month or so on, right? But Bitcoin dominance is actually increasing compared to that highly competitive market of L1s and L2s. And I think that's just outstanding, which means the Bitcoin is separating itself from everything else. And Stacks is laser focused. We're not trying to compete with anybody else. We're just trying to be the best Bitcoin L2, the place where people can use their Bitcoin in the most seamless way, in the most secure way, and is as aligned and deeply integrated with Bitcoin as it possibly can be. So I think that's our core thesis. This is why we are here. This is what we want to enable. And what it takes is there's actually a very hard, almost like a holy grail technical challenge behind why we haven't seen hundreds of billions of dollars deployed in BTC, why Bitcoin is not programmable, why it's hard to upgrade it. Almost think of that as a triangle. There are 3 sides to it. One is obviously security, that we want Bitcoin in L2s to be fully secured by Bitcoin. Think of Lightning almost, right? Like your Bitcoin in Lightning is actually pretty secure. You can withdraw it anytime you want. That's called unilateral withdrawal or self-custody. And it is backed by 100% Bitcoin hash power when the Lightning channels actually settle. So that's security. That's one part of the triangle. But the Bitcoin in Lightning is not programmable at all. SBDC is programmable. Like most of you have used SBDC, you know how amazing it is to just deploy SBDC into smart contracts, how program it, build different sort of like applications around it, and so on. So SBDC has that property, but it has a signer set. It has a decentralized signer set that it relies on. And the third thing is great UX. So for Lightning, there are channel capacity issues, there are routing issues, you can't send large amounts, you might sort of like run out of liquidity and so on. It's kind of like generally clunky. SBDC has much better UX, but still there can be improvements like, for example, paying fees just in Bitcoin, right? So those are the three things. And for 10 plus years, this has been a holy grail challenge where people have been trying to work on this, that how do we square this triangle and give people all three things? And I don't think this has been possible so far. So I have a really interesting announcement here that the Stacks ecosystem, the brainiacs that are here, the research scientists, we've had a major technical breakthrough. It's at an early stage. We will be releasing a preview / light paper about it later this week, likely on Friday. But it's at an early stage right now. But it looks like we have squared this triangle, where we can have self-custodial Bitcoin when Bitcoin is at rest, meaning it's in your wallet on the L2, and when you're doing payments, imagine Lightning style payments. And when you move that Bitcoin into smart contracts, the security properties change. But I'll talk a little bit more about how over there we can do better than just trusting a signer set. So this is a rough comparison. I think the most advanced system out there would be BitVM2, and I think BitVM2 does give you programmability, but it has a lot of UX challenges, like in terms of liquidity providers and how to get your Bitcoin in and out and how long you have to wait, and so on. And I think our solution in terms of the UX side of it is actually much, much cleaner. You depend much less on other liquidity providers and generally get a much better user experience. So this is big news. The geek in me is actually pretty excited about it. We can't wait to share more details. But at a high level, I will sort of like describe what it is. So let's dive in a little bit, right? So right now, when you take Bitcoin from the L1 and deposit it in the form of SBDC into Stacks L2, it's always one-to-one backed. There is a decentralized group of signers in the middle, and you're sort of trusting them whenever you want to withdraw your Bitcoin. But once Bitcoin is in the Stacks L2, it's fully programmable. You can easily send it around, use it for payments and all that's there. So with this upgrade, and we don't have a name for that yet, I feel like Stacks Nakamoto upgrade was an amazing name. So I think we'll run some sort of a branding exercise with the community to come up with a great name for this next big upgrade for Stacks and SBDC. It's likely going to be a combined upgrade for both Stacks and SBDC, probably rolled out in multiple steps. But we're excited about brainstorming about what name we can give this upgrade. So what would happen with this is that when you will mint your SBDC, you can do that in a fully self-custodial way, meaning you own the underlying Bitcoin on the L1 and you own SBDC in your wallet. If you want to withdraw it, you don't need to trust anyone. No signers, no bridges, nothing in the middle. There's no issues with liquidity providers or whatever. It's fully self-custodial. You want to withdraw, the underlying Bitcoin would basically unlock for you because it was always in your self-custody. And I think that's huge. Same thing with payments. If I want to pay Kyle on the L2, I can make that payment, and it's like a Lightning payment almost. Just like, Lightning has unconfirmed transactions, and they can get confirmed when a channel settles. Pretty much in a similar way, you can do these fully self-custodial payments. But it's 100x better in Lightning in terms of UX because there's no channel capacity issues. You don't have to worry about routing. I can send $10 in BTC. I can send $1 million in BTC. I can send $100 million in BTC. It will always go through, fully reliable and super fast. And I think we can even add paying fees in Bitcoin with this as well, and I'll talk about it a little bit. So that's exciting, super exciting. I think this is a big challenge that people have been facing, and you'll see more details coming out in the preview/light paper this Friday. Okay, so what happens now when you put this SBDC, this self-custodial SBDC, into smart contracts? Now, the smart contract actually owns the Bitcoin, right? So the underlying Bitcoin has to move from your self-custody to somewhere else. And right now, the default is that for a smart contract, the decentralized signer set of SBDC actually owns the underlying Bitcoin. But we think we can do better than that. And when we're calling that post conditions, so think of post conditions as a programmable underlying Bitcoin script where developers can actually direct, the smart contracts can actually direct where should the underlying Bitcoin go. And there could be more precise conditions for how that Bitcoin can actually move. So for example, in a lending application, the smart contract can actually define liquidation conditions that the Bitcoin can only go to this address and only if a liquidation happens on the L2 contract. Meaning that instead of blindly trusting a signer set, you have a much narrow, much more precise way of defining how the underlying Bitcoin can move. And I think that's very exciting. So we have a great sort of like, trustless way of having Bitcoin at rest, Bitcoin in payments. And then for smart contracts, we're trying to do as best as we can by making the underlying Bitcoin very, very precise using these post conditions. And I think that's going to unlock a lot of new use cases. One of the biggest ones, and this is likely the one we'll work on first, is with SBDC, a lot of institutions have been saying that we want to mint SBDC, but we have a fiduciary requirement to only do it through a custodian where there is a segregated address, meaning that they don't want to mix their funds with everybody else. They want to have the funds remain on their own address with a custody provider like BitGo or X. And that directly addresses it. So our technical breakthrough directly addresses the demand in the market where the large institutions are saying, this is what we need. We want a separate address, almost like a self-custody address through which they can mint. And I think that actually opens up the door to institutional capital, a lot of Bitcoin capital that can come into Stacks this way. And I think that's actually very, very exciting. So how does that translate into the roadmap? So today we are actually going to do a full walkthrough of the roadmap. Stacks is releasing its roadmap for 2025 and beyond. But I'll just give you like a high level preview right now. So we're already working on supporting more custody providers so that institutions can actually come in. And the SBDC cap right now is at 3,000 BTC, so roughly $300 million in Bitcoin capital. And this Thursday, the cap is going to 5,000 BTC. And we'll see sort of like how quickly that fills up. But that is $500 million in Bitcoin potentially deposited on Stacks, right? So I think we're reaching levels where it's becoming more significant. And I think another interesting thing, and this is like apples to oranges, because the Bitcoin and Lightning is different, it's channel capacity, but I think at 5,000 BTC, you'll likely flip Lightning as well. And SBDC has only been around for 3-4 months, which actually shows strong traction that a lot of people want to use this product because it's actually a really good product that gives users what they want. I already mentioned how we are doing R&D on this next major upgrade for SBDC that can do self-custodial minting and all these things. And for the rest of the year, we are really focused on enabling the DeFi use cases around BTC. We want to get to more than $1 billion in TBL. Right now, we're sitting at around 100 million. There are a bunch of works like tier 1 stablecoins, bridges, and so on. That's going to help us first get to 250, and then we'll grow from there. But that's a goal we have in the ecosystem right now. On a parallel track, we take faster speeds and reliability of the Stacks L2 extremely seriously. So you're going to see constant improvements on the reliability, on the speed, and there are potential proposals for PUX improvements through consensus as well. I won't be able to cover all of these things in detail. You're going to hear more about it from other people today. And then there's a full roadmap that links more details, and you'll start sort of like getting into it. But in general, the heads up that I sort of like want to give everybody is that with this, we are also thinking about how the ecosystem should organize. Should we unlock more resources, more capital, because we have a great technical breakthrough. We have a grand vision for where we want to go. And I think we want to organize in a way that we are really operationally efficient so that we can use that additional capital and resources in the best way possible to make sure we remain the leading L2 out there that enables everyone to use Bitcoin. Thank you so much. I'm going to pause here and other people are going to jump in and walk you through the rest of the stuff.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here today talking about Stacks value accrual and some really exciting updates we have planned for the Stacks economic model. So to begin, there's really two high-level ideas that I'd like to talk about. The first is that Stacks will be the best place to earn Bitcoin yield. Second is that Stacks will accrue value as Bitcoin activity on the network grows. So let's unpack that a little bit more. The thesis is simple. There's strong demand to earn Bitcoin denominated yield. This has been validated over the past several months through everything from all of our user research studies, from new products launching like the Coinbase Yield Fund to the success of the SBTC rewards program, which has distributed over 18 Bitcoin to users in just the last 5 months. Also, Stacks is uniquely positioned to be able to capitalize on this through its proof of transfer consensus mechanism and its native DeFi ecosystem. POX has been live since 2021 and has distributed over 3,500 Bitcoin to Stacks users in that time. So really well positioned to double down on this capability. Lastly, I believe that the Bitcoin L2 that wins this use case will go on to become the Bitcoin liquidity layer. And I think that Stacks is well positioned to be able to do that. So we are proposing some strategic upgrades to both the consensus level for Stacks as well as new products at the application level. So the first of that is what we're calling dual stacking. Dual stacking is an upgrade to the Stacks consensus that would allow users to stake Bitcoin, Stacks, or both to earn Bitcoin denominated rewards. And users can earn a multiple on their Bitcoin staking rewards based on the ratio of STX staked alongside BTC, where the more STX staked results in a higher Bitcoin reward rate. And so that means that dual staking is a mechanism where if Bitcoin holders want to access higher yields, they must stake more STX, which drives the value of STX as the network grows. Over time, I believe that this will continue to drive Bitcoin TVL on Stacks, unlock new products, and provide an additional incentive for staking STX. On the application level, we're also exploring programmable Bitcoin yield vaults. For this, Stacks already has the largest ecosystem of Bitcoin native DeFi companies, and yield vaults will essentially just simplify the user experience, creating scalable and composable products to access Bitcoin yields. So basically, we can aggregate Stacks yield opportunities and looping strategies that already exist in the ecosystem and just make it super simple. So users can borrow against their SBTC, get USDH, stake USDH on Hermetica, and earn Bitcoin yield all under a one-click unified platform. And the important thing is that both of these strategies leverage Stacks' unique Bitcoin in, Bitcoin out yield model to scale this to new users. And ultimately, we can create an economic flywheel where more Bitcoin on Stacks results in more network usage, which drives protocol revenue and accrues value to STX. But there's more. Stacks can also simplify the user experience and create additional protocol revenue through fee abstraction. So basically, for this, we propose cementing the value of STX as the network gas token. Stacks, the STX token itself, is really the mechanism that powers the Bitcoin economy, and it's crucial. So unlocking all of these new capabilities. But at the same time, if you're a Bitcoin holder and you want to access DeFi, there's friction to go out and get a new asset. And so as part of this plan, we are proposing launching a fee abstraction protocol for SBTC, where wallets and apps can allow users the option to pay their transaction fees in SBDC, which under the hood is converted to STX. So long term, the thesis is that removing UX barriers for transacting on stacks will increase the transaction volume. And as this network activity increases, this increases the value to the stacks network itself. Lastly, we're exploring expanding access to Bitcoin DeFi for institutions, where a key unlock for SBDC adoption really is onboarding institutional users. Stacks is also uniquely positioned to serve this audience due to its long track record, its lendiness, its performance, and its long-standing support amongst institutions. The problem that Munib alluded to earlier is that today many institutional investors who are eager to participate in Bitcoin DeFi are just unable to because of certain constraints that they have from compliance or fiduciary. And so to meet this demand, Stacks can introduce support for an institutional SBTC offering, where in this framework, regulated custodians are able to mint SBTC without the Bitcoin leaving their custody. And we're still designing the full system, but the high-level idea is that you can deposit Bitcoin into, let's say, a 2 of 2 contract between the custodian and the SBTC signers, and the system would use pre-signed transactions to maintain the SBTC account balance. And this is just the first step to evolving the protocol to fully trustless self-custodial minting, which is ultimately the goal that we're working towards. And there'll be more information released on this over the coming weeks. So in summary, we are improving on-ramps into the Stacks ecosystem and focusing initially on large institutional Bitcoin holders. We're improving the user experience to make it seamless to transact on Stacks. And we're developing new yield products both at the application layer and to the consensus layer to double down on Stacks' unique Bitcoin in, Bitcoin out yield strategy. And so in the end, it means that Stacks will be the best place to earn Bitcoin yield, which we'll use to bootstrap liquidity and expand into other use cases. This is how we win. And if you want to read more, we just posted an update on the Stacks forum. Go in and check it out and read the full update. Thank you.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm just going to follow up on what Andre and Munib already described pretty in detail for what is going to be Stacks' roadmap on the tech side. That is how we're going to execute and turn ideas and innovation into something that actually looks and feels like a product and that runs on chain. So before we start, in the last couple of weeks, SBDC just became feature complete. We opened withdrawals. In a couple of days, we are also going to lift the deposit cap again. And once we do that, the system is going to remain operational, meaning that as soon as there's going to be space, so as soon as somebody withdraws and leaves a bit of space for additional deposits, signers will pick it up, and that will allow continuous minting in and out of the system. So we are very happy about it. It's the completion of a long journey, and it's a stepping stone for what's ahead. What's ahead is going to be related to ensuring that we can take SBDC and bring it forward in several directions, all of which we are very, very excited about. So the first one is that right now, if you mint SBDC coming from the L1, you might not have STX, and that makes it a bit cumbersome to interact with Stacks and with its DeFi protocols. So the first thing we're going to do is to enable seamless free sponsorship of STX through SBDC. So from the user experience, the way this is going to look like is that I don't need to be aware of the fact that there's STX underlying. I can just peg in, use my Bitcoin, turn it into SBDC, and then there's going to be somebody that on demand dynamically is going to swap a part of my SBTC into STX in order to cover for transaction fees. We are developing this by focusing on security, of course, and user experience, and we're going to be working with wallets so that the user experience feels as seamless as possible. The next thing on the roadmap is going to be about reducing as much as possible required trust assumptions for SBTC. So the first thing we want to do is to make it possible that while SBTC is at rest in your wallet, then you don't really need to trust the signer set. We're going to call this self-custodial SBTC, and it actually unlocks a couple of great use cases, one of which is completely trustless payments. And we're still designing the way the system is going to look like, but at a high level, what we want is that when you're pegging in, you don't necessarily need to trust the SBTC signers to do that. Instead, you can peg in a self-custodial way, and then you are only going to need to trust the signers the moment you want to deploy your SBTC into DeFi. We're going to roll this out iteratively, as we like to do, small, consistent improvements across the full spectrum. And we are working with institutions and custody providers so that we can bring this to market first for accredited investors, trusted investors, people that typically rely on custody providers. And then we're going to open this up to everybody. Once you have that, then you can have trustless payments. So the way this works is that SBTC is going to be at rest in your wallet, is going to be fully self-custodial, and you can link this type of operations, this type of preconditions in such a way that you can move SBTC from one wallet to the other without having to go through the SBTC signers. So you can get good liquidity, incredible UX, and very low trust requirement. And finally, we're going to focus on what happens when you deploy your SBTC into DeFi, and so on how the trust assumptions change in that sense. So when you deploy to DeFi, after you have pegged in on Stacks, you of course are trusting Stacks, the infrastructure, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be pegging in into it. In addition, you're trusting the smart contracts with which you are interacting. Well, we want to make it so that you don't need to trust anybody or anything else in order for that to happen. And we are doing that through what we call Bitcoin postconditions. So this feature is very experimental. We are still understanding the ins and the outs, but the high-level intuition, what we want to achieve is that smart contracts that are sophisticated enough, they can actually declare the set of postconditions that they want to implement on the L1, so that when you, as an investor or as a user, peg into a smart contract, funds will move on the L1 only based on some very, very specific conditions. So for instance, you can imagine that you're pegging into a decentralized lending pool, and that the assets, they can go out of that lending pool only on several very specific conditions. So if you withdraw from them or if you are ever liquidated. And in case of a liquidation, there can be specific conditions that decide how and when this event is going to be triggered. So you can think about it as a DLC on the L1, where the oracle is the smart contract itself on the L2 that describes the specific conditions. There are a bunch of other things that we're working on. So we're implementing transaction replay in case of Bitcoin reorg. This stream of work is already in progress. We want to be code complete by the end of the month so that we can do comprehensive testing and then release it as soon as it's possible. We are collecting feedback from builders on Clarity 4. Clarity 4 is going to be our next release of the Clarity language. We're going to be focusing on adding additional opcodes that are going to make it awesome to interact with Bitcoin from STX, from Stacks. And that means basically allowing verifying blocks, transactions, and accessing more and more Bitcoin states, which is going to allow in turn to build even more impressive applications on Stacks. We are almost ready with our WASM implementation of the Clarity virtual machine. So the team is squashing the latest bugs. And the idea there is that once we are 100% feature complete with the current interpreter, We're going to allow people to basically run the Clarity virtual machine in Clarity in WASM through the WASM compiler, and we're going to keep it deactivated by default and activatable through an opt-in, so that you can actually check that the virtual machine is behaving properly, and we're going to gather enough performance data and confidence to then make it the default later on. Once this is done, then we can also design and leverage that system in order to add additional languages, additional runtimes, and so on and so forth. Is going to be an important foundational step. Improved block production consistency and speed is an ongoing topic. We just released the version 0.10, which makes it 10 times faster to sync a node from Genesis. So we are always going to be releasing improvements of this type as soon as we can get them done. And on the topic of improvements, we are just about to draft the SIP for POX5, which is going to include a lot of UX improvements on stacking. This SIP is actually completely community-driven. Core developers there are just providing feedback, and they're going to help with the implementation, of course. And so that is going to make it a lot easier and a lot less prone to errors for users to stack, both as a pool operator, as a solo user, and through additional devices like Ledger. This is all in progress. There's a bunch more I would like to tell you about, but I want to keep this short. So thank you so much for listening, and reach out if you have questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Rena. Most of you guys know me. I run both the BD working group and the DeFi working group. And today I wanted to go really deep on what's coming next in the Stacks roadmap, specifically from a DeFi ecosystem and growth perspective. We're very excited to be going in this direction. I think everyone knows how much that we've been pouring our hearts and souls into Stacks and seeing our community grow, our DeFi economy grow, our TVL grow, and basically seeing so much activity and traction on chain. And so this talk is really a culmination of everything that the builders and I and the community have been working together through open roadmap feedback sessions on how Stacks will win and what comes next. I wanted to set the stage for what we've been working on and where Stacks is going first. We're building a DeFi flywheel. Stacks will be the best place for Bitcoin yield, period. We will be the trusted source for investors and casual holders and community members alike to access Bitcoin yield. This has been in our foreview for many years, since creating Stacks, thinking about how we do stacking, accessing Bitcoin yield, and we want to make this to be the best simplified experience for everyone. And so we are creating this Bitcoin DeFi flywheel to be the trusted source for yield. What this means is that we are working with all of our projects across DeFi to build this Bitcoin DeFi economy from scratch. We are seeding our DEXs. DEXs are the lifeblood of our ecosystem. DEXs allow us to liquidate our loans or take casual positions into other assets and such. And with that, when we attract and seed our DEXs, we have early liquidity coming in via SBDC and stables. Everything we've worked on last year of launching SBDC and Nakamoto to be faster, cheaper, and better means that we now will be the deepest pool of Bitcoin capital in our ecosystem, and that comes from our DEXs. So looking at you, Valar and Alex and Bitflow, making sure that you guys have the requisite liquidity on the DEXs so that we can move to the next phase of our flywheel. Activating our protocols. Our protocols give the users the ability to actually do things with Bitcoin Fi, take out loans on Zest or Granite, actually do staking on-chain via Stacking DAO or Lisa, actually try Bitcoin-backed stables or other assets via Hermetica or Arcadico, and really access other DeFi tools like Charisma. When we activate our protocols, we're activating our community, we're activating our builders, and most importantly, we're actually activating capital that pours into our ecosystem and allows us to bring more value to what we are building. From there on out, we move to the next phase of our flywheel, incentivizing usage, boosting yields, encouraging tradings, really bringing inflow of stable coins and other assets to our ecosystem. This allows our ecosystem to grow in a way that is first-class citizens on growth, first-class citizen on how we build, first-class citizen on what we produce. And as we incentivize usage, we are signaling momentum. TVL climbs, our rankings climb, more so LP interest climbs. And we've basically created this funnel of we have liquidity, we have these really robust protocols that everybody is building towards, we have usage, and now we have signal of momentum. From there on out, our protocols actually get to TGE, be able to create value for our Bitcoin Fi economy that ultimately drives value to the Stacks chain, which is the most important thing that we're all running towards. We have this ambitious goal of one day not just being the home for Bitcoin, but the home for Bitcoin DeFi, the home for the place to earn, stake, and do what you want with your Bitcoin. SBTC was created for this, and for this, we need to build a DeFi flywheel. Part of what we're building towards is in culmination with all of our builders, the first 250 million. We want to bring the best on-chain economy on Bitcoin DeFi. And so for this growth, we have an aggressive goal of hitting 250 million by the end of June, so coming up in 6 weeks on our quarterly growth for on-chain activity. We've been working on this plan with our builders for quite some time, and here's really the traction of where we've hit. Our DEXs are targeting to get 20 million in liquidity for critical pairs. So you can think about pairs like STX and SBTC, stablecoins, and such. These pairs allow all of the other assets in our ecosystem to have the requisite liquidity so that we can work through other activations through our products. We've also onboarded an on-chain market maker. Anybody who's used the Stacks DEX before realizes that the spreads can wildly vary from one DEX to another. By onboarding an on-chain market maker, our spreads are now maintained well within reason, and actually some of the cheapest fees that you can find across all of Bitcoin Fi so that you can access SBTC, STX, AEUSD, USDH, and all of these things. We're really excited to have this on-chain market maker onboarded and actually participating in all of our products and tools. This is the big one, institutional LPs. This week, we are raising the hard cap for SBTC, and I personally have a 50 million target of bringing $50 million via SBTC and stablecoins directly into our DApp. So you can see this capital deployed on DEXs or lending pools or Hermetica and such. We are really targeting to make sure that any capital coming in via SBTC immediately redistributes back to DeFi without fail, because when we distribute to DeFi, we're activating an on-chain economy, and that brings more and more users into our economy. As we work through institutional LPs as an ecosystem, we want to make sure that dApps also have user incentives. Many of our teams are working towards activating their user base and making sure that they have new users coming into Bitcoin Fi for the first time. And so we have unlocked 1 million in incentives specifically for DeFi apps. So dApp builders can work on making sure their users are incentivized and actually using our protocols. Kind of following that is our centralized exchange support. SBTC listing is up and coming. It is something that we've been keenly working on with tier 1 exchanges to make sure that we have the deepest liquidity pool for SBTC on centralized venue. But what's more important about doing this SBTC listing is actually doing SIP10 standard support. What this means is that we're working with exchanges like the Binances or OKXs or the Coinbases of the world and making sure they integrate the SIP10 standard. Why? We want to make sure it's easier for other dApps to be able to have their token have seamless support on centralized exchanges. You can think of when you're planning for your TGE, at least the infrastructure part is already taken care of, but the stack standard is there. Highly anticipated coming at the end of Q3 will be Bridges. Axlar will be going live in Q3. We're super excited about this one because we have made sure that every Stacks DEX is already integrated on the routing of Axlar, meaning we can finally access liquidity from other ecosystems like Sui or Solana or EVM directly into our ecosystem. It is huge, and we're really excited about this going live, and just want to say kudos to all the builders helping us with this DEX integration, because the Axelar bridge is truly a team effort. We do have one more bridge coming live. They are one of the largest bridges coming from the crypto ecosystem, who does billions of dollars of transactions a day, and they will be deploying on Stacks sometime in Q3. And the last, the highly anticipated stablecoin. We do have a tier 1 stablecoin on lock, ready to go, and they are targeting a Q3 target for going live in Stacks. All of these growth initiatives are underway and such, and that will get us to 250 million. But that's not our goal. Stacks is a goal to bring one chain Stacks is a goal of on-chain TVL $1 billion, and this is exactly where we're going to go. We currently are ranked about number 40 on DeFi Llama. That is at the 100 million mark. But we want to be the best. We want to be the biggest, and we want to be the largest of Bitcoin L2s in DeFi. And so our goal is to hit $1 billion before the end of the year on-chain TVL. With what we've already achieved prior, we are on track to hit 250 million this June. But the next wave of growth will come from these unlocks that we're working through. Stablecoins, bridges, SIP10 standard, institutional LPs, more dApps and builders coming into our ecosystem. If we do this right, we know that we will hit $1 billion. And $1 billion brings us in the top 10 of DeFi Llama. We will be the only Bitcoin layer in DeFi Llama if we hit $1 billion to be top 10. Though we focus so much on DeFi, there are other aspects of the ecosystem that are equally important for growth. And so I did want to cover some of the other initiatives we've been taking on as part of the Stacks roadmap for ecosystem support and growth. The first is builder growth. We do have new grants coming and will be available as part of the roadmap for all builders, not just DeFi. Whether you're in BNS or memes or tooling or SocialFi, builder grants will be available for everyone, including user incentives, excuse me. We do want to make sure that we are incentivizing users across the board to come into our wonderful ecosystem and community. With that, we've also started an initiative earlier this year called the Marketing Working Group. The Marketing Working Groups helps teams take their products to market, really hone in on narratives and strategies, and then build the on-chain campaigns like Zeely or Galaxy to make sure that we have something universal for everyone. With that being said, the Marketing Working Group is also taking strides for media and podcast roadshows. Many of our builders are getting highlighted on premier media pieces with Decrypt or CoinDesk, as well as being on the road on the podcast show, making sure that they do what they do best, sharing what they're building in the Stacks community, and making sure that everyone knows that Stacks is the leading Bitcoin L2. Near and dear to my heart is something that we've been working on with BNS. BNS is a beloved portion of the Stacks community, and we want to make sure that they have everything they need to continue to grow and develop. What we're working on for BNS is the universal zone files. Anybody can add their wallet standard or social links into the zone file as a universal standard, which makes it more compatible and more accessible to do whatever you want to do on BNS. Hand in hand with BNS is Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect allows Stacks wallets to be integrated across any dApp in crypto. It is kind of like the Stacks.js Connect that allows any dApp to integrate Stacks. We have already integrated Xverse and Leather Wallet on the Bitcoin side in Wallet Connect. Now we're underway on the Stacks support to go live in the summer. Finally, there's two more things that are extremely important for growth and letting us be first-class UX for growth. On and off ramps. We are working with a major provider to be a fiat on and off ramp for any SIP10 token, meaning you can come with dollars and buy a SIP10 token, whether it be a DeFi token, a standard token like STX or SBTC, or a meme coin. Looking at you, Leo Walsh, we're making it easier and easier for anybody to come into our community with fiat and then off ramp with fiat as well. This is kind of the first of the kind because many fiat on-ramps have not done off-ramps into our community, and this will be the first. And lastly, one of the biggest initiatives that we've been working on quietly but surely is an investor pipeline for our builders. This is a key initiative from Stacks Asia, led by Kyle, with our partners EBG and Aspen Digital. EBG is one of the leading Web3 companies in Asia who supports growth and marketing and everything kind of under the sun so that Web3 companies can flourish in Asia with communities. Aspen is on the other side, which is a liquid fund and VC fund that actually invests capital directly into our DeFi projects and our protocols. Together, all of these things will allow our builders to grow, our ecosystem to grow, and really be the best place. And I wanted to end with this. All of this wouldn't be possible without us being a community. We're building for each other. We're building for the new world of Bitcoin. We're building the Bitcoin economy. Thank you.
Echoing Rena's closing thoughts, thank you everyone for tuning in and everyone for being a part of this community and all of the contributions that you endlessly give, whether you're on the building side, the investing side, you are part of the support team, you're part of an ecosystem, or looking to join one in the future. Thank you very much. And a big thank you as well to Manib, to Andre, Adriano, and Rena for sharing so much of what's to come in 2025 for Stacks. Bitcoin dominance is clearly here. Stacks is putting forth a great effort, as discussed today, to grow the once sleepy asset of Bitcoin to becoming the awoken leading asset and the unlock of that Bitcoin capital. For a recap of everything mentioned today surrounding the broader Stacks roadmap and all of the pieces included, be sure to check out stacks.co/roadmap or stacksroadmap.com. And there you'll be able to find everything from the value accrual within the Stacks ecosystem that Andre discussed, the DeFi and technical roadmaps that Rena and Adriana discussed, along with SBTC design principles, and so much more of what was laid out in today's discussion. We are excited to see you all over the coming weeks and months across the world, everywhere from throughout Asia, Europe, the US, Latin America, and much more. For those that are able to join us, we look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas next week for Bitcoin Vegas, where we'll have a booth, plenty of opportunities to see those within the ecosystem, and a few side events as well. Everyone, again, thank you for your time, your continued contribution to growing Bitcoin dominance and the Stacks ecosystem. I'm Kyle Ellicott, the Executive Director for the Stacks Asia Foundation, and this concludes the May edition of the Stacks Town Hall. Take care, everybody.